Conference live from NASREC Expo Center. And I was in a discussion with my guests. I'm now joined again by Professor Seepe. Prof, just before you were just speaking and making a point after we were watching the profiles on Dr. Dlamini Zuma as well as the Deputy President. And you're making an interesting point on how society has unfairly, so to speak, judged Dr. Dlamini Zuma based on the fact that at some point she was married to President Jacob Zuma.
Yeah, actually it was deliberate, not only society, but actually it was media driven. More because it was a way of saying if you need to find somebody guilty by association, if you cannot find anything wrong with her. So the emphasis, even I must say, the Deputy President was also doing that, talking a lot about the President. You know, when you have a contest, normally the person who contests will always talk about the other candidate. But here you found the Deputy President spending more time talking about somebody who is not even competing, who's actually going out. But part of it, as well as the media strategy, was to say, let's throw as much mud on Jacob Zuma with the hope that that mud will also be associated with Nkosazana Zuma. And I think that, for me, is cowardly and it's sexist, it's chauvinistic. If you want to judge somebody, judge a person on the basis of what she had said, done, and what she had said. And as Melanie was indicating, that you're talking about somebody who's a technocrat, somebody who, in terms of a track record, you could not find fault. But on the other side, you also found somebody who, Ramaphosa, has his own strength. But one must also say, in the last few months, he has actually lost a sense of credibility among some people because of the postures that he took. He was trying too hard to be liked. That day, he seemed to be taking positions that were problematic. If you take the issue of when he was waylaid by a question, what did you think of Kwezi? And he says, I thought she was raped. But this is a person who is a lawyer by training. He's a deputy president. And you have the courts that had prevailed. His job is to protect the sanctity of the court. But also, if you're not even there, you can't even begin to take that position. So that was a low point, and I think people did respond to it and actually reminded him of his own weaknesses. And for me, it was not so much really about focusing on the person's privacy. I think what is important is whether people have a solution to provide. But what has happened in terms of media analysis is the view that says here's a person who stands for the workers, and here's a person who stands for business. And in a sense, when the Ramaphosa came up with the so-called New Deal, even Kossado said, but what is that? And the DA says, but that policy is our policy. And then Gwede Mantashe had to remind him that, by the way, the ANC has a policy on economy, and it's called radical socio-economic transformation. So he began to start moving there. But I think right now the positions of two people are very clear. There is a notion that says Nkosazana seems to be embracing the impatience within the ANC that says things have not changed. And at the same time, Ramaphosa is seen as somebody who might stabilize the economy and who might endear himself as a former business person to the business world. So effectively, it has become a choice between somebody who's pro-business and somebody who's pro the working class. So the decision will be made around that. But what's interesting is that the COSATU had endorsed Ramaphosa even before they had actually heard what he had to say.
Prof, internationally, I know now it's just a context here. They need to appeal to the ANC delegates. These are the people that will vote them in power. But internationally as well, the world is watching. And after they win and become the president of the ANC, the likelihood is that they will then move on to become the president of the country. And then they'll have to then interact with the world. Your views on both of them. Obviously, Dr. Dlamini Zuma, formerly in foreign affairs, so she already has a great deal of experience, as well as having worked chairperson of the African Union.
Well, I mean, look, when it comes to the business world, what they're interested in is what they call policy certainty. You give them that, that's all they want. And it doesn't matter who the person is. Because in the ANC, the decisions are not made by an individual. So and I've spoken to almost every rating agency, and their concern is really that they tell us what the policy is. And even if we may not like it, but as long as we know what it is, then we can factor the risks. So what they had found within the ANC, and which is the nature of the ANC as a broad church, it's sometimes mixed messages. But even when you ask what are the mixed messages, you find that they are actually unclear about that. And I think what the president did yesterday was to remind people that we have a challenge, that the status quo is unsustainable, and two, that we have a policy that will address that, and it was defined in the State of the Nation address in terms of how the government is going to pursue that without undermining the Constitution. And that is clear. There's the issue of mining charter that needs to be addressed. So you need somebody who can say unambiguously. But when you have double speak, that is where the International Committee has a problem. But I think both candidates will have the capability to engage in it.
Okay, we're going to continue with our discussion. Prof, let's go for a quick ad break. Do stay with us.